My stepsister always had a strange obsession with my life. From the time we were children, she seemed to crave everything that belonged to me. If I had a toy, she wanted it. If I had a friend, she tried to take them. If I wore a dress, she would sneak into my closet and wear it behind my back. It became worse as we grew older. While I worked hard to carve out a life for myself, she floated by on charm, manipulation, and my mother's favoritism. 4 years, I endured it in silence, thinking that at some point she would grow out of it. But I was wrong. The day I introduced her to my husband was the day I realized Rachel would stop at nothing. Growing up in my mother's house wasn't easy. My parents divorced when I was 5, and I stayed with my mother. My father paid child support regularly, but I rarely saw the benefit of it. Most of the money went towards spoiling Rachel, my mother's daughter from her second marriage. Rachel got new clothes, shiny toys, and special treatment while I wore old dresses and played with broken hand-me-downs. I learned early that if I wanted something, I had to earn it. By the time I was 8, I knew how to cook rice, clean, and do laundry. At 12, I started tutoring neighborhood kids just so I could buy my own notebooks. Meanwhile, Rachel didn't know how to lift a finger. She was treated like a princess. Everyone adored her, especially my mother, who made it clear that Rachel was the priority. I was more of an afterthought, someone who should just endure, sacrifice, and make space for her younger sister. That pattern continued into adulthood. I worked my way into college, found part-time jobs, and eventually built a modest but stable life. When I met Daniel, my life finally felt like it was moving toward something brighter. He wasn't like other men. He was composed, quiet, and had an aura that commanded respect. His gaze was sharp, penetrating, and sometimes a little intimidating. But when he looked at me, there was warmth, a kind of devotion I had never experienced. For the first time in my life, I felt chosen, seen, valued. The first time I brought him home to meet my family, I noticed Rachel couldn't stop staring at him. Her eyes followed him around the room like a moth to a flame. He poured himself tea, and her gaze lingered. He adjusted his shirt cuffs, and she bit her lip. He leaned close to ask if I was comfortable, and I saw jealousy flicker across her face. That night, while everyone chatted, Rachel stayed unusually quiet, her eyes fixed on him with a faint, dreamy smile. It was the same look she always had when she wanted something that belonged to me. It became clearer during a family dinner not long after. My mother's relatives had come over, and as usual, they were interrogating Daniel about his job, his salary, his background, trying to pick him apart. I wasn't feeling well that night. My body was weak, pale. It was that time of the month, and the cramps were unbearable. Daniel noticed immediately. Without making a fuss, he excused himself and went into the kitchen. When he returned, he carried a steaming cup of brown sugar water. He set it gently in front of me, his eyes soft yet firm. "The water's hot," he said. "Drink slowly. If it's too hot, I'll blow on it for you." My cheeks flushed. I whispered for him to stop, that people were watching, that I could drink it myself. But his expression didn't waver. "I'm feeding my wife. Who dares complain?" The entire room fell silent. His words carried weight, and my heart swelled at the public display of care. But across the table, Rachel's eyes burned with envy. The moment Daniel stepped away to fetch a spoon, my mother leaned close to me and lowered her voice. "Clara," she said, "your boyfriend is good. But he doesn't really match you. Why not give him to Rachel? She's younger, prettier. They'd look better together than you and him." I froze. My chopsticks slipped slightly in my hand. I looked at her in disbelief. Was she serious? I glanced at Rachel, who was pretending to eat, but her ears were clearly alert. My mother's words were shocking but not entirely out of character. She had always favored Rachel. Still, the audacity left me speechless. When I didn't respond, her expression hardened. "You stubborn girl. Can't you be more considerate? What's so wrong with giving your man to your sister? We raised you, fed you, and this is how you repay us, selfish and ungrateful." Ungrateful. That word stung. After everything I had endured in that house, after being treated like an outsider while Rachel was showered with everything, now I was ungrateful? I wanted to laugh in her face. Before I could answer, Daniel returned with a spoon. My mother immediately shut her mouth, and Rachel forced a smile. Daniel crouched beside me, scooped some sugar water, blew on it gently, and brought it to my lips. "Drink," he murmured. My cheeks burned hotter, but I took a sip. It was warm and soothing, easing the cramps. Then Rachel chuckled. "Oh, we wouldn't dare complain. I'm just envious. Sister has it so good, just a little stomach ache, and her husband personally feeds her. If outsiders saw this, they'd think her hands were broken." Her tone was mocking, wrapped in fake sweetness, but dripping with poison. The sound of porcelain slamming against wood cut the air. Daniel had set the bowl down with a sharp crack, his expression ice cold. His gaze cut through Rachel like a knife. "Are you cursing Clara?" he asked, his voice low, dangerous. Rachel's smile faltered. She looked like a rabbit caught by a predator. Her lips trembled. "No, that's not what I meant. I was praising you, saying you're good to her." Daniel sneered. "You'd better not mean otherwise." Rachel's eyes filled with tears, but she quickly lowered her head, silenced by his tone. I sat there, stunned but also warmed by his fierce defense. But Rachel wasn't finished. A little later, she spoke again, this time in a soft, sugary voice that made my skin crawl. "Brother-in-law," she cooed, "I'm also on my period. Could you make me a cup of sugar water too?" The shamelessness of her words nearly made me choke. Did she really just ask my husband to serve her the way he served me? Daniel's lip curled in disgust. "Are your hands broken? Can't you make it yourself?" Rachel pouted, lowering her voice to a whine. "But didn't you make it for my sister?" Daniel leaned back, his eyes glacial. "Clara is my wife. What are you? Do you really think you're worthy of the same treatment?" The silence was suffocating. Rachel's face turned pale. Tears spilled from her eyes as she covered her mouth and fled to her room. I sat there sipping the sweet drink he had made me, trying not to smile. My husband wasn't just loyal, he was unshakable. I thought Rachel would stop after that humiliation. But I underestimated her desperation. One evening, while we were staying at my mother's house, she tried something bolder. Daniel had just taken a shower and was in the bedroom drying his hair when Rachel walked in wearing nothing but a thin silk robe. I wasn't there at that moment, I only learned later what had happened. According to Daniel, she slipped behind him, wrapping her arms around his waist. "Brother-in-law," she whispered, "you deserve someone younger, prettier, someone like me." Daniel froze for a moment before grabbing her wrist and twisting hard. The sharp crack of bone filled the room, followed by her scream of pain. She collapsed to the floor, clutching her arm. His voice was terrifyingly cold. "Do you know how much effort I put into winning Clara? If you dare touch me again, next time, it won't just be your arm." Rachel sobbed, crawling away in humiliation. When I returned and saw her cradling her arm, I immediately understood. Daniel looked at me with a steady expression. "Clara," he said simply, "you're the only one for me. No one else. Ever." Rachel never dared approach him again after that night. She avoided him completely, her smug confidence shattered into bitter silence. My mother still scolded me, still favored Rachel, still called me ungrateful. But I didn't care anymore. I had Daniel by my side, unyielding, protective, fiercely devoted. Rachel had tried to take the one thing in my life that was truly mine. For the first time, I didn't lose. Because Daniel wasn't just my husband. He was my armor, my safe place, my shield. And no matter how hard Rachel tried, she could never take him from me. Because in Daniel's world, I was the only one who mattered.